Hi, my name is Simon Strasser. I'm the staff scientist for Space Place here at Science North. Alright, so today we're going to be building our own craters. We just need a few very basic supplies that you can probably find around the house to do it. We need some kind of a pan, like this tin pan would work, or anything else that you can put some kind of material in. And then we're going to have to put something in it to create our craters. So I got some flour here, but you could also use sand, for example. And we're going to try to cover the flour with some cocoa powder before we make our craters. That's going to give us a surface that looks different, so the crater will stand out more. We're also going to need some kind of object, of course. So you could use pretty much anything you can think of, but here at Science North with some really big ball bearings, that works well, or smaller ball bearings, or even something like a bouncy ball. But again, anything else that you could find around the house, you could test it and see what kind of crater it makes. All right, so now we're going to pour some flour in here. There we go. Probably don't need the whole bag right away. We're going to do this a couple times with these materials. There, we're going to shake it nice and flat, and there we are. Okay, now it's the turn for the cocoa powder. So I have to open this up. I want to get the cocoa powder nice and evenly all over the top. So this is going to take a little bit of patience. There we go, nice and even surface. That's going to tell us after we make our crater what material came from the surface and what material was dug up from inside the crater. So if you go outside at night and you take out a pair of binoculars or maybe a telescope, or even by naked eye, if you look at the moon, you can see all kinds of craters. These craters have been formed over the entire history of the moon and are caused by objects that are floating around in space. And there's actually many, many of those. The smaller ones are called meteoroids. The bigger ones might be called asteroids, or could even be a comet that hits an object. And those different types of objects create craters. Now on the moon, we see them very well because there is no erosion and they will just stay there forever. On the Earth, we also have impact craters, but because of erosion from water and air and things growing on top of craters, it can become very hard to see them. So the Sudbury crater, for example, we really need to take pictures with a radar satellite from space to clearly see the crater in Sudbury. Here we go. So we can see the material is getting ejected and it's flying out of the crater, and it's landing on our surface, which thankfully has a different color. And what we notice really quite well is these streaks of material that have come from the inside of the crater, which are called ejecta. And you can see that quite nicely actually if you look at some of the bigger craters on the moon. You can see there's big streaks going out of them where the material was excavated from the crater. Look at this crater carefully and notice the size of the object compared to the size of the crater. You should notice right away that the crater is much bigger than the object. And actually, if you look here in Sudbury, where we have our own impact crater, in fact, the second largest in the world, that crater was originally 200 kilometers in diameter. The object that hit was nowhere near that size. It was probably about 10 to 15 kilometers in size. So we just use one type of material for our impact object. We use metal ball bearings. At home, you can try different things. So find some marbles or maybe a ball that's made out of wood and see whether it changes the way the impact crater looks when you drop it into the material. So there you have it. We've learned about craters, how they're made and why they look the way they do. So now it's up to you to make your own craters. So find some materials around the house or buy a couple of ingredients and start having fun.